If it's defected, double closing is amazing. If they're negotiating up and you're at 60, 65%, offer a double close, get under contract. 90 business days is a good thing. That gives you like 115, 120 days typically.
The longer you have something under contract in general, the more likely it is to fall out. You know, some states we're closing in 5 days, but now you're asking for 90 days. They're going to be running into family and cousins and aunts and uncles and kids, and their mind can change.
Like, you guys wonder why legislation comes out against this stuff. It's just like, okay, this seller wants to sell for this. Let's see if I can sell it for $1 more.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today's topic, guys, we're talking about why you guys need to be double closing. And right now we're in the middle of 2025, and this conversation is going to be all about how, one, if you're a land investor, this can help double, triple your business. And we're seeing it over and over again. And if you're just getting started or just listening and not a land investor now, this is a route you can take that really minimizes risk and can up your profit potential. And it's going to be a really solid conversation. I'm excited for it. Welcome, Ron.
Yeah, this is something, I mean, we've seen it over the last 24 months or so. Some people are building their entire business around double closing and doing this. Other people are using it as a tool. Some people aren't using it at all. And that's something that we're going to help change if you are. And like, for those of you just getting started, like, knowing about this is very important.
Yeah, and double closing, just to put it in perspective for those who don't really know what it is. So there's wholesaling properties. Double closing can kind of go in a wholesale category, but it's really not. It's not an assignment. So a lot of wholesalers, what they do is they will assign a contract to a builder or to an investor, and they assign the contract for $10,000, $15,000, and then they get that money when they close, right? And they never take title of the deed, the ownership. Double closing is a little bit different. So double closing is where you actually take title to the deed. And I go and I'm looking to buy a property from Ron. Ron owns 20 acres. And I go to Ron and offer him $70,000 to buy his property. Ron wants $90,000. I think I can sell it for $120,000. I tell Ron I can buy it, but you got to give me 90 days to close on this, because I got to line things up on my end with investors, right? Then you go and you list this property on the market. So I'm in contract with Ron. He signed the property. He signed the paperwork, the attorney, in fact, if you're using one of these. Then I take it. I have this property to market for 90 days. Then I take it, I put it on the market, and sellers come, or buyers come, and they start flooding me. I get it under contract with a buyer now. I have it under contract with Ron, and I go to the title company. I give them both documents, and I close on the same day. So it goes from Ron to me, the deed transfers, and then from me to the future buyer, the deed transfers. So you're actually double closing. That's the hidden name, guys. You're taking title, you're double closing, and you're buying and selling it really on the same day or a couple days. Sometimes it can take a little longer, but that's really what it is in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's spot on what it is. It's multiple transactions. You are buying and selling the property in the same day. You are the middleman between the end buyer and the initial seller, essentially. It's two separate deeds, like Dan said. It's two separate transactions. I literally just got off a call with a lawyer who does real estate transactions for a living, and she's like, some people try to make it not be two transactions. It is two transactions. It is not like, you can't use, and that's one of the things too, Dan, you can't use the end buyer's money to buy the property the first time or anything. Like, their money changes hands twice. Deeds change twice. It is multiple real estate transactions in the same day. That's the best way to look at it.
Yeah, so you do need money for this, but the money is more accessible if you structure the contracts right, because it opens your door to a whole nother niche in real estate where the wholesalers and house flippers are using, called transactional funding. And that's really just getting funding for a couple of days, essentially. And then, while you're double closing. So you take title, and then the funds are dispersed and their money's out for a very short amount of time. That's called transactional funding. So you don't need to use your own money for this or find out. When you don't need that's the difference between us and wholesaling, like just typical assignments. Assignments, you really don't need any money, because that end buyer is paying for everything plus the assignment fee, and it shoots over. And one of the key differences I want to point out here is, when you're doing a traditional wholesale, the original seller who you're buying the property from is going to see how much you're paying for it and how much you're giving them the assignment and what they're buying it for, and they're going to see those details as well. There's pros and cons to it. If you're just buying and dumping properties to like a builder list, like a lot of infill people are doing, Ron, things like that, it makes sense to do assignments. But for our business, we want to market this on the MLS. and not do assignments, right? We want to market this properly and get the attorney in fact and get the right documents and have it go from A to B to C, so I can use that as leverage when I'm selling the property, when I'm buying it. This is going to go in my name. I have the funds ready for this. We're taking title to it before we sell it. It's just much more cleaner, I think, Ron.
Yeah, 100%. It's more scale, in my opinion. I mean, some people make a ton of money, but you can make weight on assignments, but you can make way more money per deal if you're doing double closes. Like, it doesn't matter what you like. It's not an end contract. It doesn't matter. You can sell the property for whatever. If you get under contract for 250,000, like, you can sell it for 350 if that's what the market calls for. Assignments, it's a lot more difficult to make that kind of money on a single deal, where a lot of people are making $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 per assignment selling to builder, like you said, or other things. Double closing is much more scalable, just from you don't need to do as many deals to make as much money.
Well, you get market value.
Correct.
Because when you have a builder list, you're not going to sell to a builder for 100% of market value. So if you have a property that's $100,000, you have it under contract, let's say for, $80,000, $85,000, you're going to go to a builder and get $5,000 assignment fee. So they buy it at 90% of market value or so. A lot of times they're not buying at market value because they're builders. They're buying hundreds of lots. They know they're leveraged, whatever. They're not going to take 100% market value deal. They have no reason to, unless it's a really hot area, whatever. But you don't need a buyer's list for double closing. And that's one of the main differences. So wholesalers, that you need a buyer's list. I really don't like that business model, Ron, but we don't need to get into the nitty gritty. But you need a buyer's list to sell your list. If you're wholesaling, to sell your land, right? You're sending it out to you get something under contract and you send it out to your buyer's list. If you don't have investors that are interested, you're done, right? This is much more sustainable because you're going after, your list is the world. Your list is people, anyone, right, in that area that's looking for land. It's on the market. We put it on the MLS, right? We have the agreements. We're putting it on the MLS. It reaches everybody in that area, all the realtors, all the people on Zillow, all the people on Redfin. It's just much, much more sustainable and much, much more profitable than just flipping it to builders, Ron. And I think overall, in the last 5 years, 7 years, we've had a very hot market, I think, in general, just real estate. And things are slowing down a little bit now, of course, and now it's kind of normalizing out. But just last 6, 7 years, we've had a very, very strong real estate market, Ron. Mm-hmm. But the thing when you're flipping things to builders like this also, when the market does dry up, and it will, like really, when things get really, really bad, the first person and the most people to feel it are builders. And that's when you guys that's when that business model is going to really diminish. And I've talked to people that have experienced that, Ron, that have been in it for 30 years.
I think with the wholesaling thing in the last 18 months, it's probably been affected quite a bit, where builders aren't buying as much, stuff like that. But I want to talk about, Dan, people doing our business model, looking to add double closing, or maybe they're just starting out and they want to make sure that they don't miss out on the double closing opportunities. Is double closing something that they should be targeting when they're sending out marketing? Is double closing something that they just need to have in the back of their mind? How do they not miss out on those deals?
I would almost think double closing first, because you look at the returns you get from double closing with money out for 1 to 2 days, just from a financial perspective. You look at those returns versus flipping, and it makes a ton of sense, right? Maybe your profit per deal might shrink a little bit, but your return and the risk and everything's out the door. So I really think if you can wrap your mind and get your whole business model around, flipping and double closing, and almost think double closing first, just because, one, you don't need capital, right? This business only scales as much capital as you have and have access to. And two, you have no risk with it. And the way how well it's working right now, and how many people are doing double closing, how many opportunities are out there for double closing, I almost think you wrap your head around double closing first, to be honest, at this point.
So are you trying to double close that 50%, or are you trying to offer more initially? What does that look like?
Well, a lot of people these days are doing, it depends what your strategy is. So a lot of people are doing text and cold calling now, right? Mm-hmm. Mail is still the dominant. We put that survey out. Mail is still dominant, probably 3 to 1. I'm guessing maybe 2.5, 3 to 1. So for people mailing and sending blind offers, that's different. I would probably still target the flips, maybe sprinkle in some higher offers and approach the double close way. But when you're sending out your blind offers, just use that method that we talk about all the time, Ron, where you send your blind offer, you're trying to close it for that offer price at, 40, 50% as a standard buy and flip. And then you go if they need more money, if the property's risk, if there's a heavy wetlands or slope or something, the property's just risky, right? That's when you offer a double close with that strategy. Now, you could offer a blind offer with just a higher price and attack the double close and do some high ticket double closing, things like that. Absolutely. Sprinkle that in, see how it works for you. Double closing is amazing. I know it's going to work well. But Ron, for those people texting and cold calling, they're having more conversations with people than anyone. And that's when you really have to, you can offer them cash for sure and still doing the buy and flip. There's a lot of advantages to buying and flipping, but just be ready for that double close. These people are going to want more money. Their property is going to be a little risky. Maybe, there's something wrong with the property, Ron. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the double close. It has to be on the front of your mind. You got to be ready to attack them. Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
Well, this is new as far as you suggesting double closing first. Is this for everyone? Is this for any, like, who is this for? This is new as far as
work them side by side.
Yeah.
But if I'm just saying, if I'm starting my business from scratch and I know what I know today and I know how easy it is to double close, I mean, Ron, you got no money out and you can go to transactionalfunding.com and get transactional funding for 1% to 2%. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's crazy. And what really opened my mind is just seeing people's success in it. And then talking to people and seeing, it's hard to wrap your mind around an infinite return when you have no money out. And like that, it's just very, very scalable, I think. But you got to frame it right. And people like Kay, Ron, Kay's doing a ton of double closes, right? But she has different strategies because the hard part with double closing is the conversation you're having with the buyer and seller, right? Because you have to explain what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And people try to really weave their way around that. But at the end of the day, you're just getting this under contract and selling it. So what Kay does, Ron, is she actually does small improvements on the property and she informs the seller, the owner of the property, what she's going to be doing. And it helps leverage because they're like, oh, you're doing work. I don't want to do that work. It helps that conversation spark. So that's the hard part with double closing, Ron, is those conversations. And you're going to have to find a strategy for that.
And also some deals will fall, like some sellers will disappear. There are things legally that you can do to try to uphold the contract, everything like that. But sellers disappear, which is one of the other. And I remember probably 18 months ago, we had a student who bought for 100 or was under contract for 105, and she thought she could sell it for 210, 215, whatever the number is. And the seller backed out, if you remember that deal. And that is some of the risk in double closing. You can lose really good deals.
She had no earnest too, though.
Did she not?
Yeah.
But yeah, is that one of the risks that people need to have in the back of their head if they do have that good of a deal?
Yeah, listen, the longer you have something under contract in general, the more likely it is to fall out, right? So if you have some big deal, let's just say like, I want to think really big here. Let's think of like, was it T-Mobile and AT&T merging and that got thrown out by Supreme Court?
Something happened. Yeah, I remember.
And it was like, those are like 3 to 5 year due diligence period, right? When you have massive mergers and acquisitions like that, and they're so long, the higher, that's just the more chance that something's going to fall out. There's so many different moving parts and pieces. There's so much time to find things. So when you think of double closing versus flipping, you're closing things, Ron, some states we're closing in 5 days. I just closed a house in 4 days or something like that, 4 business days. With title insurance. When we're flipping 2 to 3 weeks on average, I'd say. But now you're asking for 90 days. They have 90 days to think about it. They're going to be running into family and cousins and aunts and uncles and kids over that 90 days, and their mind can change. And that's why just the longer you have things under contract, and there's ways to lock it in and solidify it, Ron, and minimize the risk with escrow and everything like that. But I think overall, yeah, you're going to lose more deals double closing for sure, but you have no money out at the same time. So what's the risk there?
So yeah, your expenses, you might have to pay for some title stuff, marketing, everything like that if they do back out. But overall, like your return on buying for $70,000, selling for $100,000, like you have 1% of that $70,000. So maybe $1,000 fee to the transactional funder, and then you're going to end up making $28,000 or something around that.
And that's not a deal we'd flip. So if you still have the margins to flip it and buy it and tackle it, do it, right?
Yeah. So that is your suggestion.
If you can get under 40-50%, absolutely close it. I'm just saying, like, target 70%. Like, when you're talking to these people on the phone and there's no way they're interested, and you can offer 70, 80, 85%, and that sparks their interest, then you got opportunity.
It's crazy how much you're able to do without owning a property just by having the right contracts. And every state, guys, for these every state is a little bit different in terms of like talking to lawyers in those states that you are double closing high volumes is definitely important. Like where you can be as binding as possible or whatever. But where was I getting at there? But yeah, it's you don't have much out, obviously, and every state is different as far as getting those contracts for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And that just made me think, like, some people are, I heard one person, one of the first people, talk about how they're having a litigator on the other side of their text threaten them for lawsuits and settle for $1,500 or something like that, right? You've been hearing a little bit about those. But I was thinking in my head about it. $1,500 is one mail campaign, if you can actually settle for that, right? So if you have that happen to you, Ron, a couple times a year, and you just call it the cost of business, you're looking at $3,000, $5,000. And it's like, I know people get scared from it. But if you really can settle for only $1,500 and it happens a few times a year, it's really the cost of doing business. And that's nothing compared to the profit you're going to be making. So I just want to throw that out there. I know it's kind of separate, but you just made me think of it with that.
Yeah, there's definitely things that like 1,500 seems low for something. Maybe they just like trying to collect and like do it over and over, and it's a dirty business. What a lot of those people who are like doing lawsuits for those type of things, for sure. But yeah, that's definitely a little off topic in terms of the double closing stuff.
I needed to say it. Let's get into the pros and cons, though, right?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're going to market a property, like, are you marketing it any differently, Dan? So let's kind of get through the process. So, okay, you're sending out marketing. Maybe if you can get 40 to 50%, all right, let's buy it, get a funding partner, everything like that. If it's not defective, it's defected, double closing is amazing. If they're negotiating up and you're at 60, 65%, offer a double close, get under contract. 90 business days is a good thing. That gives you like 115, 120 days typically if you do business days to sell the property. But you want to market, like what is making sure you're getting under contract, earnest money, everything like that, depending on state. But you want to actually market this property like you own it, correctly, Dan?
Yeah. On everything you do, you should. Like you said, we're double closing. You want to market this property just like it's your property. You're selling your house. Same thing. Put it everywhere. You're double closing. Get earnest down. Put $500 down. Get a contract. Give it the title. And market the hell out of it. Put on the MLS. Put on Facebook. Put on land.com. Get good drone shots. Treat it like it's yours for sure.
Yeah.
As long as the margin's there. Now, if you're dealing with smaller margins, maybe you just Facebook Marketplace it. You don't have room for much. You're trying it out. But I would make sure you have enough margin in these deals to do the sellers justice, because you need to sell this in 90 days.
Yeah. I think that's really important for sure. Actually marketing the property, doing work, spending some money on your marketing, everything like that. How do these conversations go with potential buyers who like, okay, because you obviously have buyers who like looking like you don't own this property. What's your suggestion for that? Some people try to like skate around the reality that they don't own this property right now.
But they will.
Yeah.
They will before. It's I don't like it. I don't like the conversations. That's why I really like Kay's strategy of how she's improving it and everything, and then closes. You just say we're under contract right now and it's going to close into my name before you see before you buy the property. It's going to go from Miss Julia's name to my name. I'm under contract where it's entitled right now. It's going to close in that name, and then it's going to come to you as well.
Yeah. And I just got off with the lawyer, and we talked a lot about double closing, stuff like that. And like, that's why it is a legal thing, is because you are going to own the property. Like, you have the right to market this property. And like, I think being as transparent as possible, honestly, like, yeah, I'm not on the deed right now. I have rights to buy this property and market this property currently. That's why we're looking
and
for
I'm
buyers.
under an attorney in fact with money down. Make sure they know you're solid.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't know how much they'll understand on that, but
but just tell them you're legally binding. Like, you want them to know not to mess with you and go around at the same time, because that's how you lose these, Ron.
Yeah,
is those conversations.
Especially if you're lower on funds getting started, you're starting in texting. I think it's a tremendous way to get money relatively fast, get some deals, get some potential money. Like, you can easily if you're listening to this, I don't know what day this is going out. If you're listening to this today, there's no reason you couldn't have a double close under contract to purchase within 7 days from now. Like, if you're texting set up, everything like that, like, you can get these leads really, really quickly. Start having these conversations with these potential sellers. And it is especially if you're lower on funds to start, it is a really, really good way to jumpstart your business.
Yeah, I agree. And some of the pros and cons, just thinking over it to recap on everything, is one, you have no money out. You have very little risk out. Maybe $500 earnest or whatever. It's very little, very, very little compared to the profit potential risk, right? That's the biggest thing. The con, those conversations, the likeliness of the people backing out, Ron. What else? 90 days it takes. I mean, it's obviously it's more from like a deal just falling apart. I think that's the main thing. But what other cons are there?
I don't necessarily think it's a con, but I think it's something that people get caught up in is if they can get anything under contract on a double close, they take it. I don't think necessarily people who are our students or anything are doing that stuff, but I see people in just people like, okay, I can lock this up for $50,000. Let's see if I can sell it for $53,000. I think cons are getting like bogged down by bad land, things that you're not going to actually be able to sell. Yeah. You want to treat the double closes like, I'm going to do this 99% of the time. I'm going to be able to, whatever you're making that contract out with that seller, like, you should be 99% positive that you're going to be able to make that happen for the seller by the end of your contract with them.
Yeah. And I know people who go, that's a good point. And I'm glad you said that before you wrap this up, because I know people who go after, and I see it in my DMs on Instagram and my emails and stuff, people sending me deals to look at, and they're over 100% market value because they're locking up anything that they can get. If seller's interesting, what do they want? Lock it up for that price, right? Not looking at market value, not looking at how long things are taking to sell, not doing due diligence. That's most people, honestly. And that's why wholesaling gets such a bad rep.
Yep.
We're not doing things that way.
Like, you guys wonder why legislation comes out against this stuff. It's because bad actors and people who are just like, don't give a rat's ass about the seller and like providing value to them. It's just like, okay, this seller wants to sell for this. Let's see if I can sell it for $1 more.
Yeah, and they're just doing that, and they never sell it, and then they just lock these guys up. It's getting a horrible taste, and these people aren't doing due diligence. They don't know land. Do it the right way. If you're going to double close, wholesale, any of this, do it the right way. Get it under market value and provide value to the seller. You know you're going to sell it in 90 days. You're promising what they're doing, and the future buyer, right? You're doing all your due diligence. You're putting on the MLS. You're giving the market an opportunity to buy a nice piece of land. These people are doing it so wrong. It's very frustrating to see. I don't even look up the properties anymore that people send me, Ron, because I just know 95+% of them, these people aren't doing anything.
For sure.
I hate to see that.
This is a good conversation. If you guys are not double closing, if you guys are in this business, like, it's definitely something you need to add to your tool belt. No doubt about it. It needs to be part of your business model. Other than that, guys, appreciate you guys watching. Hit the subscribe button below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, share this with a friend. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
Thanks for joining, guys.